The Built How podcast is part of the Win Make Give podcast network.
Welcome to the Built How podcast. My name is Ben Kinney. This podcast interviews the top real estate professionals, and we ask a simple question. How did you build the business that you have today? And I'm so excited for today's guest. Get ready to learn.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Built How podcast. I'm your host, Ann Kennedy. Today, we're joined by Bernie Gallerani of Nashville, Tennessee. Bernie, welcome to the Built How podcast, and thanks so much for joining us.
And thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to having this conversation today. Hopefully, people will get an opportunity to hear something different.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it. So I'd love to start out just by asking you, tell us about you and how, what's your story? How did you get started in real estate?
Well, I actually moved out here almost 19 years ago from Las Vegas, originally from California, and stopped off in Las Vegas for about 10 years. And my wife and I just got tired of living the Vegas life. We had two small children at that particular time. And so we thought we would come to something that we thought was just different for us. So we ended up landing in Nashville. And that was before Nashville was really anything really big. I mean, now it's one of the hottest cities in the country, but then it really wasn't. And so we didn't really know anybody here. And we just landed here and bought a home. And I started my real estate career here in Nashville. I moved here in August of 2004 and started selling real estate in January of 2005.
So tell us about, why real estate and then what happened when you first got in?
Well, I mean, real estate just seemed like it was an opportunity for me to do some things that were in line with the things that I like doing. So I just thought I'd be good at it. Probably like, millions of other realtors who've gotten into this business felt like it was something for them. And so I probably had that same feeling. So I got into the business and because I really didn't know anybody here in town, I was really insecure about my ability to really connect to the people. Why that is obviously I'm from California. As I said earlier, I'm Italian, so I talk fast. In Nashville, they have this kind of Southern drawl and really slow and way of talking. And so I just felt kind of a fish out of water a little bit. And so I hired a coach and I thought, okay, well, maybe they can teach me how to talk to the people. I really got something a little bit different than I had anticipated. They taught me scripts and skills and objection handling and things like that. So I still talk kind of fast for an Italian guy, but I really appreciated being involved with coaching and with Mike Ferry, the MFO organization. So I got involved with Mike. I actually signed up with MFO in December of 2004.
Wow.
And so I had a license in late December, but being in December, I thought, okay, I'll start after the first of the year. So I signed up, paid my first month of coaching, and then started in January the following month selling houses.
And I think you told me that you sold 40 homes in your first year. Is that right?
I did.
Yeah. And then you also got up to a crazy number of homes that you personally were closing every year. What was that number?
Yeah, so the highest number I had is I closed 147 homes in a year. I ranged anywhere from about 135 to 145 typically. It was really all I could do. I personally was willing to do. To me, that was really keeping my schedule busy. I'm one that likes to have a little bit of a balanced life in regards to, I wasn't balanced at that particular time, but I thought I certainly could push myself to selling more. I have friends of mine that sell in the 200 range personally. But for me, I had two kids at home. I liked my weekends. So that's why I became a listing agent and not a buyer's agent. Is I mainly worked on listings, and the Mike Ferry organization kind of shared with me that, if you want to build a predictable business, if you want to get some of your time back, learn to list properties, and not work with as many buyers. So that was the avenue that I personally took. And so at a certain point and a certain amount of income, I thought, you know what, I'd rather just really have a great quality of life. And so I kind of hovered around that like 140 or so, 145 at the top of my real estate career.
So when did you switch to adding buyer's agents and to start building a team? When did that happen?
Well, it kind of actually happened early, very early in the real estate career. I had my first buyer's agent in my first year. So I didn't have a lot of success of that at that time, but I actually did have one towards the end of my first year. And the reason I did and had the mindset to get a buyer's agent was that my coach told me with Mike Ferry organization that if you want to really control your business, don't work with buyers, work with sellers. And so what he said was either one, get a buyer's agent to take your buyers, or just give them to somebody in your office and then just collect a referral fee off them. So I just chose to get the buyer's agent. I had a buyer's agent with me for about 6 years. He did a fair job. And then he was kind of coming and going based on what was going on in his life. So it worked out fairly well, I would guess, with that person for about 6 years. And then I hired a different agent to come work with me who was much more dedicated. That was 12 years ago. And then so that agent is today still working with my company.
Wow.
So I guess to answer your question, I was very coachable. And if somebody told me to kind of stand on the corner with a purple suit on, I was going to stand on the corner with a purple suit on. If I felt like it was improving my life, I would do whatever somebody told me to do. So they told me to get a buyer's agent. So I basically got a buyer's agent.
Got it. Okay. So you had someone else that you brought in about 6 years after that. When did you start really adding to the team, or did it just grow slowly and organically?
It all was by accident. It was never intentional. I actually had probably not the right attitude to team building. I just wanted somebody to take the buyers that I was told not to work with, and so I had some success with the first agent I had. I had some success with the second agent I had. And so what I was doing was they were taking sign calls, and they were working with it. When I was listing properties, 25 or 30% of those people had a home that they wanted to purchase outside of listing the home and selling it. So I would pass that on to the agent that was working on my team as a buyer's agent. And they were doing pretty well, but yet I also surrounded myself with these buyer's agents, the second one especially, that really was eager to grow his business in a manner that says, like, how can we create more opportunities for him? And so I started doing a little bit of Google, PPC, pay-per-click lead. So I did that, and then he got some business that way. And then he did really well. At some point, it was him and myself. My wife, who was my partner, as she was our closing coordinator at that particular time. And then I had a personal assistant running my listings. And the buyer's agent was selling 60 and 70 homes a year. Wow. And was really just asking, how do I get more? So I would then do some marketing for him, and then he would do more. And he got up to about 85 transactions as my buyer's agent, which is a lot of work for a buyer's agent. And so in that marketing, I started realizing I was getting a lot more leads, a lot more opportunities. So I hired a second buyer's agent. So I now had two. And then that agent took off, and she started selling 35, 40 homes a year. And I'm like, okay, now I got these two powerhouses, and we're selling over 100 homes between those two buyer's agents. I'm selling 150 houses myself. So we're doing really well. And then my agent, my second agent, or my second buyer's agent, said, hey, I'd love my daughter to get involved. So I hired her daughter, and then I hired another person. So now all of a sudden I had four. And so I'm buying leads. Well, and what happened was, by accident, totally by accident, was I was this high octane kind of agent making a lot of sales. But then I was getting bogged down with questions and running a little company. And so I thought, man, this is not the direction that I want to go. I don't want to be a manager of people. I kind of started off with just somebody working my buyers, and all of a sudden now I have four people, right? And so I then thought I had a client of mine or somebody who came in from out of state who I was sharing. He had a professional background in another industry, and they flew in to look at a home when I was just talking about my business a little bit. And so when he bought a house and moved here from out of state, he called me and said, "Hey, are you? You said that you were really kind of looking to find somebody to help you with these realtors. I'm interested in helping you." And so we talked, and I said, "Okay, here's my goal. If you can just answer any questions they have, and technology wise, and then let me go back to work and do what it is that I do." And he said, "Okay, that's fine." So by the time he landed in my organization or my small little team, I then hired 2 more buyer's agents.
Wow.
So now I had 6. I had 2 that were actually 4 of doing really well and 2 that were new. So I told him, his name's Kurt, and I said, "Hey, Kurt, here's what I want you to do, man. Answer their questions, solve their problems, let me go back to work." And so he agreed to do that. And so he, I don't know, maybe a couple months went by, and he comes and sits down with me and he goes, "Man, I'm solving their problems. I'm dealing with their issues. What do I do next?" Like, he was a little bored. I don't blame him. I mean, he solved my problem, which was bogging me or taking me away from what I was doing. And I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you, because I don't want to manage you, really." Right? I don't want to manage you, but I don't want to manage you. And so I said, "Well, we'll just go find a few more agents then." So here's where it gets really interesting. So he's like, "Okay." Now remember, he owned other businesses, he managed other things, and so this was the world he lived in. So I got very lucky, actually, by hiring this person in my company. And so he went out and hired. We had 6, then pretty soon we had 8, and then we ran out of space. And he goes, "Well, now we're out of space. We have no place to put them." And they're working in the kitchen, they're working in the conference rooms that we had in our little location. And so he's like, "Man, we need more space." Oh, that threw me for a loop. I'm like, "Oh no, this is getting out of hand. I don't want to grow a company. I just want to go sell houses." And right, because it wasn't how my mind worked. I worked as a realtor. I didn't work as an entrepreneur at that particular time. I wasn't a company builder, let's just say. So I said, "All right." So I called my coach and I said, "Hey, listen, there's a deal. My ops manager wants more space." And I think it's a little ridiculous, but and he's like, "Well, go get him more space if you want more space." So we moved into a different space for him, and he went from 8 agents to 10 agents to 12 to 14 to 16 to 18.
Wow.
And he built this like amazing group.
And so meanwhile, you were off focusing on listings.
I was just working on my own business, and he was building also my other business.
Okay.
Right. And so it really happened by accident. It was never intentional. And then once we got it all off the ground and the company was making good money, I looked at the numbers and I'm like, "Wow, this team is making more than I'm making as an agent."
The light bulb went off.
And what am I doing? I mean, so that's how I looked at it. And I just went, okay, what is it? What is my true passion here? And what I learned in the process was I really liked seeing people grow as humans. And I liked watching them go from where they were and hearing their stories and how it changed their life. And so I then made a decision about 4 or 5 years ago to just back out of production, in that we run this great company today. And, we did about 300 million in home sales last year. And we're tracking for just over that this year. And so it's been, again, it happened by accident. It was never intentional.
Is that person still in your life? Is he still part of the company?
He is, runs the whole organization.
Wow. And so now what do you do?
So, of course, my roles have all changed over the years. So I'm still the visionary of the company. So today I sit in this chair and I get to kind of think about where I want to see the company go. So we went from a building that I owned over here, not too far from where I am today. We went from an 1,850 square foot building. Then we moved into a 1,500 square foot additional building for our sales team. So between those 2 spaces, we had about 3,300 or so square feet. And then our company grew to a point, now we're in a 12,000 square foot building.
Oh, wow.
So we've got a lot of really great space. So I'm the visionary of the company. And so I kind of figure out what moves we're going next and what we're doing. And since departing from sales, I then opened up a mortgage company, and I've also opened up a title company. So we're kind of an all-in-house organization. So my goal, my job is to pace the future of the company, and then I coach every agent on the team. So I personally coach every agent, and we have some really dynamic people. We have agents selling 80, 90 homes a year for our company. We have agents that are in the middle pack selling between 40 and 60. And then we have others selling, 25 or 30. Our minimum standard, you can't work for a company unless you sell at least 24 homes a year. So we pace you and build you a business plan to get you to 24. So we know it'll work for everybody that works the plan. And so we coach everybody to a minimum of 24. And so when you come into our group, you come in for 90 days and then you get an additional 90 days. And then after 12 months, when you hit 24, you make the team. And then if not, you don't make the team. So, if you fall a little bit short, you hit 18 or 19 or 20, then we evaluate based on your work ethic, how you approach the business. If we felt that you're, and we're a small enough group, but we're very, very mighty. And, our average agent sells about 36 homes a year, which the industry standard is 4. So they're a very successful group of people.
So that's really interesting because, so few brokerages have standards. And when you say, you give them a little extra bandwidth on the other, or timeline, runway, on the other end, what if you have somebody that's been with you for a few years and maybe they're dropping down their production? Does it just stay on the team? Do you still have to be at the 24 units a year?
Well, the 24 units is the minimum standard. And so I would say this to you. Yes, we will work with them because we understand life happens to people. And we know that if somebody sold 30 homes or 35 or 40, let's just say, and they drop down into 25, or if they're going from 35 to 25, let's just say, then we realize we have something going on. And so, I'm not a counselor or anything like that, so I don't want to get into the personalized that way. But my job is to try to help them solve whatever issue they're dealing with. We give them some grace.
So go ahead. Tell us about how you have the office structured.
Yeah. Okay, good. So one of the things that I realized, Dan, when I was a real estate agent that I learned through my coaching was that a salesperson's a salesperson and an administrative person is an administrative person. And any high producing agent that wants to sell at an exceptional level can't do both. We're not talented in both areas. Great salespeople are not typically great administrative people. Administrative quality people are typically not good salespeople, right? Or that's probably we kind of stay in our own world. There's a great book out by Gary Keller called One Thing. And you do the one thing that you really are talented in and let the other people do with the things they're talented in. And even like hiring Kurt to help with the company and build the company, that's really his wheelhouse. And that wasn't mine for sure. And it isn't even today. I have a skill set, but that was his wheelhouse. And so you have to let him run with what he knows really well. And so when I was taught that you be a salesman, Bernie, and you let the really good quality people manage the listings and be the closing coordinators and communicate with the clients as need be, and so on and so forth. So how our staff looks today, and all of our agents have this same structure. When you come into our company today, you are just a salesperson. There are TCs, transaction coordinators. We sell just over 600 units a year. This year, we're tracking first over that. So each TC will close about 300 files each. So there's 2 of those inside the company. We have a listing manager who manages about 320 to 350 listings per year. And so the agent then comes in and they have they basically just have an assistant when they start. So if they're brand new in the company, they already have a personal transaction coordinator. They have a listing manager that handles all those listings. We have a runner who runs and puts all our signs, our lock boxes up. We have professional photography that goes out and takes photos. So the agent really just becomes a salesperson. Once the contract is negotiated, it goes to the TC. The TC takes it over from there. Once the agent brings in the listing, hands it to the listing manager, then the listing is taken care of by the listing manager. The only involvement an agent would have at that point is doing any sort of repair negotiations if they have a buyer client, or if they're a listing, any major price adjustments that can't be done by the listing manager will happen by the agent. But the agent's involvement is very low. We teach them to be salespeople and to keep their business in that area, and then let the professional people on the other side take care of the professional side there.
Who manages the client relationship? Who's the overarching continuous, or is there one, touch? Who builds the relationship with that client?
Well, that's a good question. So is your question based on who's building it previous to the contract being negotiated, or a house being chosen, or a listing being made?
Let's say it's 3 months after the transaction has closed. Who's maintaining that relationship?
Yes, great question. So every past client is inside of our system. There's over 7,000 past clients we have in our system today.
Wow.
And so we have an inside sales agent who is in charge of watching this dashboard. And on this dashboard, we have, I don't know, I think I figured out the other day, about 70 or so past clients that show up on our dashboard every 90 days. I'm sorry, I apologize, every day. And those past clients get called every 90 days. And so what happens is it hits the agent first. So the agent, then it shows up on their platform, on their CRM, and then they make that call. So they might get 1 or 2 a day or 3 a day, depending on how successful they've been with the company. But the inside salesperson that works in the company gets all of them every day. And so what we do is we allow the agent to make the call on that day. If the agent doesn't make the call, the ISA actually makes the call for them.
Wow. Okay.
So, and touches on their behalf. So for example, if I'm the ISA, I might say, hi, this is Bernie with Bernie Gallerani Real Estate. I'm calling in behalf. I know you worked with Garrett Maurer on our team, and we want to just follow up and see how things are going with the house. And then so it's really a service that the inside salesperson has for the agent themselves.
Got it. Okay.
So every client is touched 4 times a year and gets mailings, postcard mailings 4 times a year. And then every quarter we do client appreciation gift giveaways. So we just did one about maybe a week or 2 ago, where we bought 4 passes to a zoo, our local zoo, and we did we got 2 passes for 4, a family pack, $300 each. The company spent $600, and we posted that to all 7,000 of our clients. And we had 500 people within a day that raised their hand, said, "Oh, I want them." And then so we ended up giving those passes out to those clients. So we're doing 4 touches on calls, 4 mailers, and then we're doing at 1 every quarter. We're doing a company giveaway. Could be, we buy them boxes of wine. They say, "Oh, I love that wine. I want to buy it." We give them. I did one last year where I gave away National Grand Prix tickets to the National Grand Prix that we have here. So we gave tickets away for that. So we're always doing something for our past clients so we can stay in front of them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Bernie, what is your biggest challenge today?
I've got many challenges. I would say that my goal is I'm a believer, Ann, that the real estate business is the greatest opportunity for people who don't have a higher advanced education, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it might be. I think that real estate provides a great opportunity for a lot of people who start into a business, who don't have to hold inventory. It doesn't take a whole lot to get into this business. You don't have to buy anything really other than a set of business cards, maybe. It's something that you can just work on your skill and actually be pretty well or do pretty well in. So I'm going to answer your question. The thing that challenged me the most is selling that concept to my people and getting them from where they are to where they need to go. That's my challenge is are they growing fast enough? And are they seeing the opportunities in front of them? I actually saw this as a massive opportunity for me. And I remember I didn't close my first house for 5 months and still sold 40 in my first year.
Wow.
And so I looked at this. I'll never forget this. I started in January, and in May, I closed my first house. And I remember I had several pendings on the board, and I was going to earn about $30,000 that month. And I'd never earned $30,000 in a month in my entire life. And I remember looking at this, and I remember saying to myself, man, I'm going to make $30,000 this next month. Now, I hadn't made anything up till that month, right? Because I was kind of learning. But I said, I'm going to make $30,000 this month, and I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not even very good yet. And that to me was a trigger. And 30,000 became 60,000, and 60,000 became 90,000, and 90,000 became 120,000. And then pretty soon I was making 130, 40, 50,000 a month. And then I thought, my gosh, what an amazing opportunity for anybody I mean, I have a high school diploma. That's it. And so you look at this going, a person like me should never make a 7-figure income. I'm not educated at that level, but yet I'm making more money than most people that are highly educated. So here's your answer. I see that opportunity in every person who comes into this building, but yet they can't see it for themselves. And so that's my biggest challenge, is getting them to see that they can really change their life if they just change their disciplines, they change their habits, they change their approach.
Awesome. Well, Bernie, we couldn't end on a better note. Thank you so much for being our guest. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Built How podcast.
Thank you, Ann, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Built How podcast and got some valuable takeaways that you can put into place into your business right away. Don't forget to visit builthow.com and register for our next live or virtual event. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave a rating and a review, and check out all the other podcasts on the Win Make Give podcast network. We'll see you next time.